Hello and welcome to the show. This show is really about helping financial advisors, financial planners thrive in a world that is constantly changing. And I am really excited about my guest today. Kevin Wood, CFP, is the MD and the Chief Financial Planner at Oak4, an accredited financial planning firm based in Staffordshire, and the 2021 winner of the prestigious David Norton Building Excellence Award by the CISI. Kevin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. Good to see you as always, Abraham.
Yes, good to have you on the show. So, can you tell us a little bit about the journey that brought you into financial services and into this giant, incredible profession of financial planning?
Yeah, I'll try and summarize it. So, look, I've been very lucky. I got into financial services when I was about 18 or 19. Fell into it like a lot of people do, and it was mortgages. It was mortgages and protection. And I basically met someone who was a mortgage advisor, and it just intrigued me. It was never really my destiny. I always thought I would end up the next James Bond or something. That was my goal.
Didn't we all? Yeah.
Absolutely. So. It wasn't something that I pursued or anything like that. It just intrigued me how this person was operating, what he did. It seemed like it was adding value to other people. And I think that's a theme that probably runs through all of us financial planners, is that we want to be people of value. And so this mortgage advisor kind of took me under their wing, learned what I had to do. I couldn't wait to leave school, by the way. So education wasn't the path for me, but it seemed like I needed to come back to it and start actually educating myself. So I did the qualification, CMAP, I think it was, to be a mortgage advisor, but very quickly realized that you're better off working as a self-employed advisor rather than working under the umbrella of a larger firm. So within a couple of years of working under the umbrella or under the arm of this mortgage advisor, I thought, I'm going to do this myself. I knew a couple of estate agents. They could pass me some leads and things. So I set up in the third bedroom of my own house, as it was at the time, and thought, right, this is it. I'm going to take on the world. And a few years later, I was contacted by my third-party compliance people, 360 as it was at the time. And they said, look, we know you're doing okay. We know you're happy being self-employed, running your own little firm. There's a small accountancy firm and financial planning firm in Birmingham. Would you be interested in meeting with them? They seem to be rubbing shoulders with the right sort of people. Would you be interested in meeting them? Because they're looking for, you can stay self-employed, but you can work under their umbrella. And I thought, yeah, why not? I'll go and meet them, see what happens. So in 2005, beginning of 2005, I went to meet this chap who was running this very small financial advice firm. I had no idea what financial advice really was. It just sounded good. But it turns out that they were actually quite forward thinking. So it was a small firm, but they just employed cash flow planning, so proper lifestyle planning. This was 2005. They were fee-based. They were using platforms. I think they were using Transact at the time. Right. They'd got Tim Hale on board. They were speaking to Dimensional. I mean, this was all made no sense to me at all.
Cutting edge at the time.
Yeah, at the time, I think so. And therefore my initial steps into financial services, financial planning, was what we do now, but just a sort of more iterative version of it. But that's all I've kind of ever known. So when people used to talk to me about, commissions and selling products and with profits, I just didn't understand it. I just didn't know what it was. For me, it was all about, right, what are you trying to achieve? What's important to you? What you want your life to be about? Build a plan around it. That's all I knew. So I continued to be a mortgage advisor, but in the background, I was secretly kind of going, I really like this financial planning stuff, whilst I did believe that the mortgage advice was adding some value, it was also very transactional. So I wanted to, again, move to the next stage of that value added piece. So in the background, I started doing my exams to be a financial advisor. So I think it was November 2008, I'd passed my final exam, and we all know what happened in 08, 09. So it was perfect timing, really, to come out of the mortgage sort of advice side of things into financial advice or financial planning. But what I found out very quickly was it was very easy to get mortgage-based clients and very, very difficult to get financial advice, financial planning clients. So it was a bit like passing my test and being handed the keys to a Ferrari. I just really didn't know what I was doing and how to get these clients. And the firm I was working with were specializing more and more with high net worth clients. So they would be the owner of the firm, that he was the only advisor, and then he had a support team around him. He was very, very good at getting in front of people with millions and millions of pounds. And I was like a young, naive, 20-odd, mid-20s person, just, thinking this is a different world. I'd never experienced wealth in my family or in my friendship groups. So it was always on the TV. So I realized very quickly when I passed my final exam to be a financial planner that although I'd learned so much from this firm, absolutely fantastic, I couldn't have asked for a better introduction to financial planning, really, that I needed to go and explore other things. It was a lifestyle firm for them, and it still is, and it's a very, very good firm, but it's a lifestyle firm. So there was nowhere really for me to go. So I kind of went shopping around for a different opportunity, and I was invited to join a firm not far from me in Lichfield, actually, who seemed to have all the right things. They were looking after footballers and media people and wealthy people, which is what I wanted. I wanted to continue down that path because it intrigued me. But the reality is that it was a shit show. It was a real shit show. It was someone who had made a lot of money from the old commission-driven days, had moved into fee-based, but really was mimicking the same model and just wanted to sell esoteric stuff. He was very, very good at getting through the door with people, very charming, enthusiastic guy. But the reality is that he enjoyed the sizzle and he did not enjoy what I call proper financial planning piece. He couldn't really sell that, so to speak. So I joined and thought, throw myself in the fire here, sort of thing. But the reality is that it was a really good learning experience about how not to do things. And it was really good to be able to learn from that experience. I ended up taking over a lot of the clients from a proper financial planning perspective, bringing everything that I'd learned, the cash flow planning, using platforms, using dimensional funds, model portfolios, evidence-based, all that kind of stuff. But it had to end because there was a time where the owner of the business continued to do more and more esoteric things, trying to sort of muddy the waters, so to speak, with this very, I'll call it boring financial planning, but it works. And all this esoteric stuff, we could just get butting heads. And I remember plenty of arguments where I would just say, look, I'm not doing it. I'm not bringing that to the client. No way, Jose. And so we ended up butting heads. I thought, sod it. I'm going to start my own firm. This was 2017. Firm started trading in 2018. And I just thought, I'm just going to nail my own colours to the mast. I know how I want to do things, what I want to deliver, be that high value person. I'd got some of my own clients, so I knew I was starting from a point of decent cash flow. So I was very lucky from that perspective that I wasn't starting from zero. And the rest is history in terms of where Oak 4 is today.
Incredible stuff. Thank you for that story. So you had a great introduction to financial planning, how to do it, and then you went and sought out and learned how not to do it, or you saw how not to do it. And so you started Oak 4 in 2018, I'm assuming 2018.
Yeah,
So,
January 2018, we actually were up and running trading. Yeah.
right. Okay. Good stuff. So this was you setting up your shingle. Is that hanging up your shingle? Is that how they say this? Uh, Give us
Yeah.
a sense of the firm today, and then maybe we can go back and just see what that journey was. Tell us a bit about what Oak For as a firm today, clients, your team. Some numbers just to give us a sense of the business today.
Yeah, so we're still quite small. Boutique, I think, is the word. It's a limited number of clients. We've got 57 client families that we look after.
Nice.
And we're at 56 million under management. So I've continued the theme of looking after the, I suppose, higher net worth clients. I think I enjoyed the intellectual stimulation of working with people who have probably already succeeded. I love listening to their journey. A lot of them are business owners. Some of them are C-suite executives. So I've enjoyed that challenge of understanding the complexities that come with fairly significant wealth. Team-wise, it's me as the only advisor at the moment. I don't foresee it staying like that forever. I want to sort of be more strategic with the business, but it is at the moment. And then I have a technical lead, who otherwise known as a paraplanner, ops director who just deals with all the stuff and all the shit I don't want to deal with, which is brilliant. And I've got an executive assistant who helps me sort of manage the day-to-day calendar, making sure that I stay on track and so on. So there's 4 of us in the team. We do outsource a little bit of some bits and pieces, but generally speaking, it's the 4 of us on a sort of full-time basis.
You're listening to Retirementals.
50 odd client families, 56 million. So on average, you have a client at $1 million in liquid wealth. So sort of liquid assets. And I'm assuming a lot of that is in pensions. Typically what we see is 60%, maybe 70 actually, percent of the assets is sitting in pensions. Is that wrong? Am I headed the wrong way there?
No, not at all. Pretty much spot on. So what you tend to find with the higher net worth clients, of course, is that they need a number of different tools, but pensions is the biggest, and then it's offshore bonds and ISAs and general investment accounts on the platform.
Incredible stuff. And you will fall in my category. This is Abraham's invented category of super productive financial planning. Now you're still, a super productive financial planner. You're a solo advisor. We'll talk about how that will change. You got 3 other people in the business. Am I making this up? Are they full-time, part-time, a split between?
Yeah, so there's myself, the ops director, and paraplanner, we'll call them for the purposes of this, because everyone understands that, full-time in the business. And my executive assistant is more on a sort of, it's a virtual executive assistant, basically. So it's just as and when.
Understood. Okay, sorry. Forgive me. I'll cut it 3. That is incredible, and I'm again, let's go there. I want to go there. If you're happy to talk to me a little bit about the revenue, maybe profit margin, just to get a sense, because I think this is really important. As you know, I have been studying, the numbers, and I've interviewed a lot of advisors, and I see a fair bit. I think it's important to understand what is possible just with, you call this a small firm, but it's incredibly sleek as an operation. So talk a little bit to revenue and profit margin, and I will compare that to the industry to give you a sense of where I am coming from with this sort of super productive, super efficient, solo firms that I'm seeing.
Sure. Well, thank you for the nice comments. It doesn't feel sometimes that we're super productive, but yeah, it's nice to think that we're viewed in that way, as I guess. And it's an interesting question, because we're going through a bit of an exercise at the moment where we're looking at our MI ratios much more with much more sort of intention, and where the firm is going next. So yeah, really good question. So in terms of revenue, we'll be at about 400,000 this year. Most of that is recurring revenue. We don't do a huge amount of initial fees. We don't take on a huge amount of new clients every year. We'll probably take on 5 to 10 maybe new ideal clients. And again, we'll take a view on that in terms of initial fees, because I'm more interested in the long-term relationship. So because of these higher net worth clients, we'll charge them a sort of an onboarding fee, but it will generally be a fixed fee just to sort of, cover the initial costs. So about 400,000 in revenue. Profit margins, it's about the 26-27%. That's after taking sort of full market incomes for myself and for the ops director. And so I believe Brett Davidson would say that that's kind of where it needs to be. So yeah, that's where we're at. Do you need any more information or color on that?
I think that's good, especially that you are accounting for the full cost of yourself and the director and your technical person. That is incredible. That's twice. So the average advisor, if you just look at investment revenue, if you like, so you ignore what do you call it, insurance, type revenue, is doing about 200,000, and you're doing twice that, profitable, great lifestyle, and you're doing it in Lichfield. Let's face it, I don't know Lichfield very well, but I'm guessing it's not exactly the wealth management capital of the world.
I think you're right. There's certainly a lot of wealth around here, though. There is a lot of wealth around here, but no, you're right. It's not the wealth capital of the world for sure.
The only thing I know about Lichfield was I went to uni in Coventry. So I went to Coventry Uni for my master's. And I remember wanting to buy a car from a guy based in Lichfield. This is a completely beat up car. And I remember I can't remember now, one of my friends drove me to this place to pick up this car. No, but I it's in the Midlands. I'm sure a nice place to live. I'm sure a lot of wealth around. But again, this is typical of what you see with financial planning, that, I guess it matters where you're located, but not too much, because I see stories of, solo practitioners, financial planning type firms based in, I don't know, Coleraine in Northern Ireland, another wealth management capital of the world, doing, not too dissimilar to you, £500,000 of revenue. You've been doing this, that's incredible. 8 years in from, is it 8 years? No, 5 years in.
No, 5 years in, but I did have the advantage of having some clients from a previous sort of experience.
I think it's incredible. You should be proud, Kevin, of what you've what you've accomplished.
Thank you very much.
So let's dive in a bit into. What do you think is the secret sauce here of this highly efficient, super productive solo advice firm? What would you put down to this success, if you can talk to that for a minute?
Yeah, sure. I think that it comes down to a couple of things. One is being very intentional. So whilst we don't have a niche, and I do agree that a niche having a niche is a very good thing for a business like ours. Whilst we don't have a niche, we're very intentional about the sort of personalities, the sort of people, the sort of backgrounds that we wanted to work with. Like I said, this intellectual curiosity. And so I wanted to make sure that, one, whoever we work with, we could add significant and tangible value to, and two, I enjoyed working with them. So again, I feel very privileged and lucky to be able to be in that spot where I can go, yeah, I'd like to work with this person, or no, I wouldn't like to work with this person because once a messer, always a messer. We've kind of heard that before. But I think the most important thing for me is to be intentional about the sort of people that we want to work with, those personality traits. And like I said, being curious. I'm a very curious person, so I like to understand where they've come from. And if they've got an interesting story and a big future, I'm more inclined to work with them, even if they've not got sort of, the assets that we would deem to be sort of the minimum that we would need, because they've got the potential to get there, for example. And I think that the second thing is just being human. And what I mean by that is, we've got AI on the doorstep, and I think it can go one of two ways. We can always go down that rabbit hole if you want to, and I'm hoping it will be a good thing for firms in the future. But I think being human and being very empathetic is definitely an art and a skill. It's definitely been inherent in me to just be curious and to understand people and to want to understand where they're coming from, not just sympathize with them, but understand where they're coming from. And I think that has helped me connect with people on all different levels. And I'm sure that's the case for a lot of good financial planners out there. They just understand people, and they want to understand people, and they want to help them.
No, I mean, I think that's spot on. This is, in essence, a people's business. We're in the business of, understanding people and helping them achieve what's important to them. And I would argue, I know a little bit, a thing or two about technology. I would argue that's very, very hard for technology to completely replace. That's the side of the argument that I land. But we'll see how all this evolves. So talk a little bit about, so are you still taking on clients? Roughly how many do you plan to, or do you take on over a 12-month period? And what's the onboarding process for a new client? Maybe even the assessment of whether you work with them or not. Talk a little bit to that point.
Yeah. So in terms of taking on new clients, it's between 5 and 10 a year. We've already kind of hit our quota for this financial year, 6 months in. And so we won't take any more clients on now until the start of the new financial year, which will be in December. And we'll revisit it then. I think where we want to get to, and what we've looked at in terms of our capabilities, capacity and resources, is that I can probably get to about 75. So I've probably got room for another maybe 20-ish client families. And we may need another number of support staff for that. I'm not sure. But at that stage, we will, just before we hit that sort of capacity number, we will bring on a shadow advisor. I think someone who wants to come in, maybe has got some experience, maybe a CFP, maybe chartered, but maybe just struggles getting their own clients. Bring them in and have them sort of start taking over the day-to-day client-facing work, so that I can concentrate on being a bit more strategic. So that's kind of the plan, and I think that technology will help us be a bit more efficient and what have you, but it's just knowing which technology to use right now. And I want to build some longevity into this business. I don't want it to be just about me and what clients I can bring in. I want it to sort of, well, if I just pedal back a minute, the reason that I wanted to start my own firm is that I had this vision of being a force for good in financial services. Not me, but the firm, our firm being a force for good in financial services. And if that's going to have some longevity to it, it can't just be about me being the sole advisor. So we need to employ great technology, we need to attract great talent, and have a firm that lives beyond me. Now, I don't envisage or see me retiring in the truest sense of the word for a long, long, long time yet. And maybe there'll be different projects after that. But what I do want to make sure is that if anything happens to me, the firm can continue. And I'm sure we've all heard of the E-Myth book, and all the things that go with that. And I've started to realize now that I do need to be more of a business owner and have a business owner mentality than a financial planner mentality if this firm is going to continue to grow and evolve and to continue to add value and be a force for good in financial services.
It's incredible. I mean, there's so much I want to unpack from that, Kevin. Thank you for that insight. One thing I wondered was, so in this period of, I don't know, next 6 months, that you're not particularly taking clients, do you have like a wait list of, when client comes, or, if anyone's introduced to you, what you say to them? And B, do you do any marketing at all? Is that deliberate? Whatever the answer is, yes or no, is that deliberate, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the first question, do we have a wait list? We don't normally, but if someone comes along today and says, I'd like to have a meeting with you, then the answer will be, we're not taking on new clients at the moment. Happy to put you on the wait list. But ordinarily, the new clients that we take on kind of keep us busy throughout the year. And as long as it's the right number and the right type of client, then we'll take them on. So at this point in time, we're probably a little bit ahead of where we would be or where we thought we would be, and therefore a wait list will be created. So I'm not sure what I'm going to say yet, apart from we're not taking on any clients at the moment. Are you happy to wait for a few months?
It's a nice problem, yeah.
Nice. It'll be a nice problem to have if we start getting a few more clients sort of coming to us. In terms of marketing, we haven't traditionally done that. We've had a little bit of a go with LinkedIn and Twitter just to try and, I suppose, enhance our sort of credibility in the marketplace, in our market. But that's just a slow burn that will continue. The only real marketing is what I've done over the years, which is networking, and networking with, and I hate it. Absolutely hate networking.
Don't we all?
But it had to be done. And so I would meet up with solicitors and accountants and other professionals to see whether, one, I liked them, two, they liked me, and three, whether there's any kind of mutual benefit to passing clients to each other. And again, it's been a very, very slow burn. And the key to it was consistency. And so that will likely continue. And the more I can free my time up, by taking on a shadow advisor, for example, the more I can focus on that. But I just really haven't had time to focus on it up until, well, I haven't had time to do it properly.
No, but I assume that you haven't really had to. I mean, you do the networking, and then I assume that do you have a sense of what proportion of new client comes from networking versus just referrals from the existing clients? Let's say over the last 12 months, for instance.
Yeah. So I will say that over the last 12 months, 65% of referrals have come from existing clients.
Right.
10% have come from vouched for. That's just
interesting.
We're just on vouched for, and it just happens. And it just so happens that the clients that we've had from vouched for, very, very few and far between, but they've actually ended up being really, really good clients to have. Then we've had, what are we? So 10%. So the other 25% will be from accountants and solicitors.
Interesting stuff. No, I mean, vouch for pays for itself, even if you just get one or two clients from it in a year. This point that you alluded to earlier on about, your mission wanting to be and your firm's mission wanting to be a force for good in financial services in the world, it's an incredibly powerful stuff. And I have been pulling my ear out when I speak to financial planners or just about the nature of this business, that we've got this beautiful thing that changes people's life, that makes a difference to people, that helps them fulfill their goals, their aspiration. Yet, in many cases, to do it properly, we feel that we kind of have to keep it, small, or keep it completely, restricted to ourselves. Like if you think about something like 50% of firms are solo advice practice, solo advice firms. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. Some of the best firms, in fact, the best firms that I come across are either solo or small. By that, I mean, typically two to five advisors. Some of the ones that I come across, so my point is, it's why I don't know. Do you have an answer? Why is it that to do this properly, we feel in many cases we have to either restrict it to ourselves, or if we do grow, maybe we add one more person to that. I guess it speaks to the nature of the business. Is an intensely personal service, intensely people-driven person, and all these big, great attempts to merge firms and consolidate firms, they often end up in suboptimal client outcomes. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that front.
It blows my mind as well why we can't have a competitor to St James's Place, for example, that really that's as big as St James's Place, but really puts the emphasis on proper financial planning. Blows my mind. Accountants do it, they scale up. Solicitors do it, they scale up. Why we end up with lots and lots of smaller firms? I think maybe there's a lot of ego at play. And I'm guilty of that as well. I don't think I would have started my own firm unless there was a little bit of ego about how I wanted to do things and my name above the door and things like that. Not in a bad egotistical way, but in a, I want to deliver loads of value, but I want some credit for it as well. I want a pat on the back kind of thing. I think it's because we can control our own destiny to a larger extent once we've had the skills of how not to do it and how to do it. And there's so many wonderful people in financial services that we can thrive off and learn from, that we kind of go, well, yeah, that's all great, but I kind of want to do it like this. So I'm going to take everything that you've got there, but I want to control my own destiny and earn as much as I possibly can, but deliver great outcomes and so on. So maybe, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but to me, it would make sense to have a super advisor firm, a bit like I always envisaged United Capital, that's since been bought out by Goldman Sachs. Having something like that was super tech driven, with an overriding focus of looking after clients and great client outcomes and all that kind of stuff, but tech driven, and everyone's singing from the same hymn sheet. So the only thing I can think of is that we've got lots of people who agree on the same things, but we've all just got our own little sort of tweaks that we want to make, and that's why we end up with quite a few smaller firms, just because we don't all completely universally agree on everything.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I can come up with.
No, look, I think it's a beautiful thing. I think that financial planning is incredibly entrepreneurial. I think that it's very hard for you as a person who constantly interact with successful business people who've done life or are doing life on their own terms. They've succeeded in their own way. And I think it's hard for you to constantly interact with these people and help them further, the accomplishment of their own goals without you, if you yourself aren't doing the same. And so, maybe it's just like the issue of, like attracting like, or the issue of the more time you spend around entrepreneurial, successful people, the more you're inclined to, and you build the confidence to go out and do it yourself. Either way, I'm not complaining. And, like, there isn't any evidence that larger firms are more productive. As a matter of fact, advisors in larger firms tend to be less productive than you, right? You're about 40% more productive. You're far more profitable, about twice the profitability of a large advice firms. And so maybe there is an anti-scale thing, but I do agree with you. There is probably a case for, a bigger umbrella that allows people to thrive and do things in their own unique way and provides the technology and maybe capital even to grow. Who knows? But I think that's interesting. You may be speaking something to my big quiet aspiration. But anyway, let's not go down that rabbit hole. I want to start moving this forward. We're already running behind schedule, but there's a couple of things that I wanted to pick up with you. One is, can you talk a little bit about your, call it tech stack? What tools do you use? And by that, I mean including platform, investment proposition, all that stuff. What tools do you use in the firm? How do you see these tools? And can you talk a little bit about your review process with clients, if you see what I mean? So do you tend to do surge meetings? Do you batch this together, or do you do it throughout the year? And what tools do you use in the process? Over to you.
Yeah, that's a lot. So let me see if I can remember this. So tech stack then, one of my huge bugbears in running a smaller firm and possibly for larger firms as well. I don't know, but I've seen some really good use of tech, but they are with these vertically integrated firms, so we can't nick it, unfortunately. So in our own firm, I'm a big advocate of technology. I love using technology, but only where it makes sense to do so. So we've ended up with a tech stack that looks a bit messy at the moment, and we are in the process of cleaning it up, which is why I'm not taking on new clients at the moment. So at the moment we're using, if I just go to the platform, Transact and Fundment. We've had some really good experiences with Transact over the years, but of late we've also had some really good experiences with Fundment. We're obviously using Timeline. And what I love about Timeline, Abraham, which is absolutely brilliant, obviously it's all data driven and we love data. But what it allows us to do is to back test or to stress test against the cash flow modeling that we do with Truth. So we use Truth for cash flow. I love Truth from the point of view of the client output, so that the clients just get it. It's really, really good. I'm not overly keen on its lack of integration, so there's a duplication of data, which is frustrating. We use AdviceFront as a client portal at the moment. We've obviously got Microsoft Office 365 for all the normal stuff, and we use FinPlan as a back office system, which we are not going to be using in the near future. So everything is subject to change. Everything is subject to making it better, slicker, more streamlined for not just a team perspective. We've got to make it good for the team because we're all frustrated, but we need to make it better from a client experience perspective as well. So we did actually build a little bit of proprietary tech with Gareth from Code Potato a number of years ago, which allowed us to have a bit of software that was, as I say, proprietary, that allowed us to explore what was important to a client. Because we'd sometimes find that in an initial client meeting, like you asked about this, and I'm sorry, I haven't answered the question, which was, what does your sort of client meeting sort of process look like? I'll just give you a bite-sized bit of that. In the first meeting, all I want to do is understand what the client's trying to achieve, whether I like them, whether they like me, most importantly, whether we can be of value to them. And one of the things that I love, and I have no new ideas at all. I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, as we say. So I've just nicked everything from all these great people that where it makes sense. So I quite like George Kinder's stuff, and I like Bill Backrack's stuff, and I kind of blend them together. And then there's a bit of Dan Sullivan in there as well somewhere. It's it sounds terrible, doesn't it? It's organized chaos. And so one of the questions that I love to ask is, what or why is money important to you? And some people would struggle a little bit to articulate what was important to them about money sometimes. And so we built this proprietary tool, which was tech enabled, which allows us to sort of drag and drop the main values that we kept seeing and hearing from clients, and then with some context around it, so we could drag and drop. And what we need to do is continue to kind of build from that, because what I'd love to see is this end-to-end client and user experience. That's what we're all dying for in this space, I think. So from a tech stack perspective, Truth, Transact, Timeline portfolios, obviously evidence-based asset class investing. Truth, I've already said Truth, haven't I? Advice Front, FinPlan, and there's probably some other things as well that I've forgotten because we've got so bloody many of them. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely spot on about this kind of messiness around the tech stack, and a problem that I am frantically working hard at to solve a Timeline. What do you do risk profiling wise? Maybe we can throw a few more into that stack.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're now using Timeline. You'll be pleased to know for a risk questionnaire, and that really again is a bugbear of mine. Risk questionnaires and whether they should be used or shouldn't be used. It just gives us a baseline for discussion, as we all know.
Yeah, absolutely, that's what it is.
But Timeline is great, and where possible, and we've seen this with Timeline, the development and what you're trying to build out is fantastic, because you are trying to effectively solve our main pain points, aren't you? And so we can see that starting to develop, which is real hope for the future, and we can start to drop a couple of bits of tech which didn't talk to each other, but you've kind of started to build in so it does talk to each other, which is great.
Oh, thank you for that. Look, I haven't paid you to say that, but thank you. It's very welcome. Look, that's the mission. We still have work to do. Let's face it. In terms of these ideas that you mentioned about dynamic questioning, in that client meeting stage, there's work for us to do around that. Client portal, we'll see where that lands. There's just a lot of work to do, and there are other people in the profession, in the sector, doing other things, doing interesting things. I think to a degree, some of that's going to overlap, and advisors will choose I guess what their core technology is, and then maybe they have to add one or two to really make it their own. Who knows? But we'll see where all of that lands. Thank you for that insight in terms of what you do with the client meetings. Talk a little bit about the review meetings. The onboarding calls. Well, talk a little bit about the review meetings and how you do that, and then we can start to wrap things up.
Sure. So review meetings. With the help of Brett and his no bullshit approach, which is fantastic, he really gets to the heart of what matters. And we all know this, but very rarely do we articulate it in such a succinct way, which is, what do clients really, really want? Am I going to be okay? Tell me what you've done for me lately. That's it. So when I go to a client review, or planning meeting, I like to call it, because we are planning to continue going forward, and we do surge, by the way, so we do batch them up into a short period of time, and what that does, the benefits I see of that are that mindset wise, we're just in that process, so we just continue going. We're not dipping in and out of that process. We're in it, and then we're focused on it. And two, it frees up some time throughout the rest of the year for onboarding new clients and for being more strategic with the business. So those are the main benefits of Surge for us. It might not work for everyone, it works for us. And so the review meeting process, luckily I have a great team who prepare everything. We've got different bits of tech and different bits of software and presentations that we'll have as our tools on the shelf if we need them. But the main thing will be the cash flow. It will be what's changed. Are we still on track? We've got these things that are important to you. Do they still make sense, or has anything changed? And the cash flow is the heart of the financial planning meeting, the annual financial planning meeting, because they just want to know, are they okay? Can we encourage them to spend more or to do more, to have more experiences? And then we'll have what we call a client scorecard, which essentially just gives the client a bit of a visual overview about what we've done for them in the last 12 months. And it's a bit like at home, if you empty the dishwasher, but you don't tell your wife or your partner that you've emptied the dishwasher, you don't get any recognition for it. so we like to tell our clients what we've done for them, and that might be, sometimes it won't be a huge amount. It'll be utilising capital gains tax allowances. It'll be communicating with their accountant. It'll be making sure their beneficiaries are still correct, etc., etc. But we tell them that we're doing these things because they generally want to know, and it's good for them to hear that we're not just sitting back and doing nothing for the rest of the year.
I would like to, see a redacted version of that scorecard thing. And I just want to see it because I think there's something in there for us, a timeline as we build this. Maybe it's something we can share with the audience. I don't know. If we can, we will. And then also that drag and drop that you mentioned of what's important to them, either for new clients or even in, I guess it might be useful in ongoing planning meetings as well. No, really, really good stuff for that. And you've just added a lot of value. I've enjoyed this conversation. I guess my final question for you is, where are you taking this? You've talked about that plan, the intention to bring in an associate planner at some point. You can clearly see a path to, 75 client family, which in my head, sorry to be a capitalist, equates, to 75 million of AUM and maybe about 700 of revenue. Where then? So, you and I are meeting in 10 years' time. You're still by then going to be 45 because you're 35 right now.
42.
What, now or then?
No, I'm 42 now.
Oh, you're 35. Let's see.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take it.
Right. Well, say we're meeting in 8 years' time and it's your 50th birthday. It's the big 50. The firm is going swimmingly well. Talk to me about what the firm is at that point.
Yeah, I think fundamentally it's still focusing on those very holistic and bespoke collaborative conversations with clients about their goals, their aspirations. And I think clients already come to us subconsciously hoping, I think, that they're not just getting help with their financial decisions, but also on their life aspirations as well. I think that's something that we're all doing. All good financial planners are doing for their clients. I think that a lot of it, the firm will be tech enabled or tech driven. We'll be leveraging AI, there'll be machine learning, there'll be automation, which will enhance efficiency and accuracy and client experiences. I think all that's going to be in there. But I think it will still be holistic and hyper-personalized to the individual clients and their needs. And what it will enable us to do is to add more services onto it. So we'll almost become a private sort of family office, but to the masses. And we'll be able to serve more people with that tech enablement as well. I think there'll be more emphasis on coaching and behavioral finance. AI will be able to help us with that as well, and to spot the impact of behavioral biases, on financial decisions, and we'll be able to coach them even better through the emotional biases that can sometimes make us very irrational and not make great financial choices. I think the way that we charge will change. I think it will be value-based pricing, and I think the demand for this will just shape the future of financial planning firms, financial advice firms. I think it will be value-based pricing. That's just my opinion. We're not at that yet, but we're certainly looking into it. And I think that I don't think I'll be a client-facing advisor in 8 years. I think I will be stewarding the firm to bigger and better things, making sure we continue to innovate and grow and provide opportunities for that talent that hopefully will take the business to the next level.
Oh man, I love your vision, Kevin, of, tech-driven, AI-enabled, value-driven financial planning. Oh, no, not financial planning. Family office to the masses. That is beautiful, my friend. I really love it. And, I would hope that Timeline I want to play a tiny little negligible role in that journey. So thank you very much, Kevin, for your honesty, for being vulnerable, for sharing your work with us. I have thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and I hope that I'm sure that our listeners have as well. So thank you very much.
No, thank you, Abraham. Thank you again for having us. Really appreciate it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I'll be remiss if I don't thank my incredible team who worked very hard to put this program together. Thank you very much, guys. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Timeline Retirement Planning Software, and PyTech, low-cost flat fee model portfolio manager. And you, our listeners, thank you for your time. I hope you've had as much fun listening to the program as we have making it. You can find more about the show at retirementals.co.uk, and you can follow me on Twitter. My handle is Abraham on Money. Until next time, thank you.